Okay, Sunita, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you again. I'm going to hand it over to Mike Ballstad.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this 70th session of our biweekly town hall meetings. And today we are joined also by some folks from SBA, as well as one of our case force attorneys to give help. So we are presented by the NorCal SBDC Finance Center. And let's see, why am I not moving forward here? My screen's frozen. Okay, here we go. So Northern California SBDC is supported by the SBA and the state of California. And what this means is no fee advising for small business here in California. So for any of you who have not worked with us before, we have folks of many disciplines, whether it be marketing, bookkeeping, e-commerce, all available to you at no expense. And we're glad to help you strengthen your business. In the Finance Center, we specialize in getting loans for small businesses. Our director is Scott Rogalski, and Sunita, who's with us today, is our Associate Director. And then myself, Mike Ballstad, I'm a Regional Advisor. We also have Kyle Roseman, who's one of our lending specialists. So anything around getting financing for your business, please feel free to reach out to us at 833-ASKSBDC, and we'd be glad to help identify any sources of capital that may be available to you. So for our agenda today, we have our disclaimer, as well as the parameters for the COVID and fire-related economic injury disaster loans, PPP applications and required documents for forgiveness, an update on the soon-to-be launched California Rebuilding Fund, some updates from the SBA, upcoming webinars, and then we will have the Case Attorney Coalition and any Q&A from there. So our disclaimer is this information was correct when the presentation was created, which literally I gave the last update to it about a half hour ago. EIDL is still open, so please don't hesitate to apply for those funds. And they are for most businesses, including many nonprofit organizations are eligible as well. However, the advance is no longer available, and PPP is no longer available. That was closed as of Sunday, August. Sorry, I'm having problems with my screen. As of August 8th. Okay, and so with our COVID and fire-related parameters, so on the EIDL loans for COVID, these are long-term loans. These are 30-year loans, and they have rates for 3 3/4% for businesses and 2 3/4 for nonprofits. And you have payment deferral of 11 months, so you don't have a payment due until month 12. However, you do have interest accruing during that time. They do require collateral for loans of over $25,000 and personal guarantee for loans above $200,000. They are not forgivable, and you're allowed to use those funds for all operating expenses, cost of goods sold, and interest debt payments, however, not principal payments, and you're not able to refinance loans with that. You're not allowed to expand your business, and you're also not allowed to pay any tax liens with these funds. For the fire-related loans, the rates are a little bit different. They're 3 to 6% for for-profit businesses and 2 3/4 for nonprofits. They also are able to be amortized for up to 30 years, and they do have a deferral period of 6 months versus the 11 months on the COVID version. They do require collateral on loans of $25,000 or more and personal guarantees by all owners of over 20% of the company. And you are also able to use this for working capital to cover all ordinary business and operating expenses. You again are not allowed to use these for expansion or to refinance any long-term loans. And with this, I'll hand off to Sunita.
Thank you, Mike. We borrowed some of this information regarding PPP loan forgiveness from another SBDC office that was kind enough to put all this together. I just thought it was really great information in just a couple of slides. So to go over the PPP loan forgiveness timelines and rules, borrowers have up to 10 months from the end of the covered period, to apply for forgiveness. Covered period is either 24 weeks from the funding date if you funded after June 5th. But prior to that, you could have an 8 or 24 weeks. So it was up to you to choose the two. I know for a long time, we're trying to spend down that money in 8 weeks. So if that's what you chose, after that 8th week, you have 10 months to go ahead and apply for forgiveness. There are still things that are outstanding. I've already seen questions in our Q&A asking us if it is valid that 150,000 and under are automatically forgiven. And unfortunately, they have not put that into law yet, or that has not moved forward. That is still a thought in people's minds, but there is nothing that validates that information as of yet. Of course, the hope is there, but there is nothing new that has come out. They have not gone back. Legislatures have not gone back to help with getting this moved forward. If you'd like to help us move these things forward, please contact your local legislation office or legislator and see if there's anything that they can do to help us with this, to move these things forward. So lender has 60 days from the completed application. So if I submit my application today, they have 60 days to go ahead and review that application. After the 60th day, it should have gone to SBA. SBA then has 90 days from the receipt from the lender to review it, to make sure that all of the documents that they require are there. They are checking off everything that needs to be checked off, that the money was spent according to the rules and regulations. But say a portion of that money ended up having to be a loan. So let's say maybe $10,000 of your money's had to be a loan. So that you would have to repay, and the repayment is going to be at 1% interest, and it'll be up to 5 years. Before June, I believe the maximum was 2-year payback, but I believe that lenders are allowing at this point in time to get modifications on that note. But you would have to work that out with that lender, not SBA, but the lender. So any portion of that you would have to pay back. $10,000 interest did accrue on day one. So that's only if some of that money ended up becoming a loan. Rules for forgiveness. 60% at minimum has to be paid towards payroll expenses. Wages not reduced by more than 25%. And we went through caveats of that previously in the weeks prior to this in regards to reduction in employees or wages. There are instances where there is a safe harbor, and also if the employee did not want to come back and you were not able to hire somebody with the same background as that employee. So FTE average maintained unless it's under $50,000 for your loan amount, and safe harbor and exemptions may apply, which I'm sure they probably will be in a lot of instances. And just contact us so that way we can give you all of the information regarding that. Next, please, Mike. Thank you. So PPP loan eligible costs and auditing. So for payroll, cash payments to employees, yes, that is part of it. State and local taxes, but not federal taxes. And this is something that we've explained since pretty much day one. That has never changed. There's lots of things that have changed, but that is not one that has changed. You are allowed to do state and local taxes with that money, but not the federal taxes. Retirement plans, whatever you paid towards a retirement plans is eligible for forgiveness, and medical insurance premiums is also eligible. Business rent, leases in effect before February 15th, 2020. And say during this period it increased, you had to renegotiate or you had to move. That is okay, just as long as you had a lease in effect prior to this. So business mortgage interest, mortgages in effect before February 15th, 2020. So you can use that money to pay the interest. Same thing here. If you happen to move or you happen to buy another property, you could still use the money to pay the interest just as long as you owned a property prior to 2/15. Utility payments, utilities in place prior to February 15th, 2020 as well. For auditing, any business can be audited at this point in time, but most likely all businesses who receive loans greater than 2 million will be subject to an audit. There are thousands of applications out there. How they're going to audit, I don't know. And I don't think right now the SBA knows as well. We could ask them the question, but I don't know if they have those answers yet, because this is something brand new to pretty much all of us. Next, please. Your business. So did you receive a loan for under $50,000 or $50,000 and under? You get to use the 3508S, which is simplified form. There's just a few places that you sign off, you initial, you state that you did use the money accordingly to what the note stated, and that your employees, how many employees did you have at time of application of PPP, and how many employees did you have when you're applying for the forgiveness. So there's not much information that they need there. For 50K, even $50,000, $50, you would have to use the easy or other form. Unfortunately, they have maxed out at the 50,000 for the simplified form. 50K loans, self-employed, no employees, and there's others that can use this form as well, which we're going to go into. So you required documents are going to be the relevant payroll records and receipts, proof of payment. Your lender can also ask you for other documents if they believe it's warranted. So this is at minimum. Calculation needed, online form will calculate it for you. Documents keep on hand, relevant payroll records, receipts, proof of payment. This is something I believe that you should keep for any application that you're going to use. So if it's a simplified or the easy or the long form, always keep this information. Also keep it for, I would say, at least 5 years. So that way there's no issue coming back to you. So for 50K loans, no more than 25% reduction in wages, no reduction in employees. You can also use the easy form. You can use the easy form also for no more than 25% reduction in wages, unable to operate due to compliance with health ordinances. You can use the easy form as well. And then all businesses, you can use the 3508 long form. It is a bit daunting. You do have to do the schedules first, and then you can do the form because you need the information from the schedules first. It's almost like doing your tax returns. Sometimes you need information from a schedule to be able to complete the application in full. And I think this is the end for me, and then I'm going to hand it back to Mike. Oh,
all right, thank you so much.
But that's okay. I'll let Mike take it from here. He knows PPP as well.
Yeah, let me back up. Sorry, I had an interruption come into the office, so I had to take myself off for a minute.
No worries.
So with required documents for PPP, it's much like when you're filing taxes or anything else. At any point in time, they can ask you to justify or support the claims that you've made. So really just pretty common sense, keep any documents related to payroll and related costs. Anything related to employee benefits, particularly the portions that you've paid as the employer, because these are the pieces that you can have forgiven, not the parts that the employee paid. Anything to support your utility and rent expenses and your mortgage and interest expenses. And the applications can be found at the link here, which Alan, if you could also put this into the chat so that they can live click that if they would like. SBA.gov/funding-programs. You see it from there. Feel free to go to that page to download any of those documents. That'll be helpful to you. And so also, as we had said, there's
that link is in the that link is in the chat, but it's also in the the whole presentation's in the chat with that as a hot link in it. So people can.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. So also you've heard in previous weeks, if you've been on the call, that there's going to be a new loan fund coming out called the California Rebuilding Fund. We're just waiting for a launch date at this point. And these are loans for small businesses with fewer than 50 or fewer employees and 2.5 million or less in revenue. These loans are for a maximum of $100,000 and are meant to cover up to 3 months. So it's a little different than EIDL, which is up to 6 months. These are for up to 3 months of your expenses. If you go to this link, which we will also put in the chat, that's not launched yet, but there is a tab that for pre-application that will let you know which documents to gather so that when the portal goes live, you'll have everything waiting for you. So my suggestion would be much the same as I gave at the beginning when EIDL came around, which would be just to put a folder on your desktop and collect all the documentation that they're going to need to support the loan application and just put it in that file folder. And that way, when the portal is live, you'll have everything right at your disposal.
Mike,
when it does, yes.
Mike, that link is different from the one that I have and that's been shared so far. So if you, after you finish talking, can you put it in the chat, because I don't have it.
You don't have that one because that's actually on the form that, or the piece that I had. Let me see. I'll put it in a moment after I stop sharing my screen.
Thanks.
No problem at all. So when it does go live, you'll put your information into the portal and it will match you up with a lender. Now, in the case that you're not able to be matched because of qualification issues, then it'll match you to some technical assistance, much like what SBDC can offer you, depending on where you are geographically. If you are matched with someone, they will reach out to you and request the documents required to move forward. So this would be very much the same if you applied for EIDL, the way that was to work. The difference is the fund's smaller, the volume's going to be a bit less. So we're thinking that you're probably going to see more prompt responses in the beginning because there won't be such a volume of applications. But I would just say that really the key is making sure that you have all your documentation in advance. It'll make it a much easier process for you. Okay, and for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our friends from the SBA that are on the line. And so we have Heather Lucy, Carrie Ellenwood, and David Castaneda. Good morning, everybody.
Well, good morning. And I think I might be the only one. I'm David Castaneda, Economic Development Specialist with the SBA. And I just, again, would like to thank you guys for doing such a great job with this information. And I don't even think anywhere that we have so much good, detailed, and professional information that's coming out. So for those of you that are listening and may have, seen or joined us more than once on this, I encourage you to invite a colleague or another business owner to attend these webinars that are every Wednesday at 10:30. Very good information. So the SBA, just want to inform you about our other resource partners that are available along with the SBDC. SBA puts in every year over $120 million into the SBDC program nationwide to assist small businesses. So again, this is one of the great services here that you're listening to that is sponsored by the SBA. But we also do have other resources that you can tap into if you're needing help with your business. For example, we have SCORE organization that can help. SCORE.org is a really good information resource you can utilize. Their national website, SCORE.org. Also, the Women's Business Center, like the SBDC, SBA has given the Women's Business Center additional funds to help with the COVID disaster and helping small business during this time. Just like to show that, for example, in the Northern California Women's Business Center, they are having on November 20th at noon it's a case study, and they're going to have business owners share their experience going through the PPP forgiveness application process. So that might be of interest to you if you've never been through that before, or if that's something that you want to get more information on. But again, I do encourage you, if you do have need to get help, the SBDC Finance Center right here has the professionals to help you through that process. But if you do want to learn more about the process and hear about a business owner that has been through that, the Women's Business Center is going to have that on November 20th. Also, I'd like to congratulate Sunita for becoming the director of the SBDC Finance Center. So congratulations, Sunita. And now Scott Rogowski, they brought him in to the lead center to work on internal and other programs. So he is still with us, but congratulations to you, Sunita. And I'll give it back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate that. Looking forward to more webinars with everyone here. Thank you.
Excellent. And Alan, you want to talk about our upcoming webinars?
Sure. Oh, this is not even the right slide, is it? So this is an old slide. Let me grab the slide and share it myself, which might be easier because there's some really useful information that I've got that I want to share with folks. So let me quickly run that slide. Hang on, where's it gone? Over there, and then share that screen. So I'm going to share my screen, which is that one. So folks, we've been running some webinars for what we call our startup series. So we've just we ran the startup, starting your business a couple of weeks ago, planning it last week, and financing, which was led by our very own Kyle here, was yesterday. And so we're looking to do those again. We've got some dates for the starting your business. It will be the first week on the Wednesday and Thursday, the first week in December. And we're looking to set the dates for the planning and financing classes. Other than that, there's a whole bunch of stuff being done by the various centers. So we are, if you look on that SBDC events network calendar address, you will see literally dozens and dozens of webinars being put on by all the different centers across our network, with topics from e-commerce to marketing and all sorts of other stuff. And because they're all webinars, anyone can go to anything, which makes life easy. Now, if you miss a webinar that you think, I really wanted to see that, we were very pleased to be able to tell you that we launched last week a new, just last week, a new recorded webinar library. And you can access that via learn.norcalsbdc.org. And this is, there's about 15 or so of our most popular webinars, including those starting, planning and financing, but also ones around cash flow and disaster prep and all sorts of stuff, as well as e-commerce topics. And you just register on that site, and then you can see as many of those as you want, as many times as you want. So we're really excited about that and offering that to folks to be able to see what they need to see or when they need to see it. Okay, I'm going to stop that share and let Mike or whoever else.
Excellent. Go back to.
And Mike, while you're doing that, I've been told that the link that we had about the SBA.gov funding programs loan, the long one with the paycheck protection program, that link was 404ing, so that was an invalid page link. So I've been trying to find the correct link for that and not go terribly far. And also want to check the Cal Fund one is working as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that one
trying to reshare here.
So I'm going to share with all, you shared that just with me, but I'm going to put that in for everybody. That's the California Loan Fund, calloanfund.org.
Yes.
That's in there.
Excellent. Thank you. And so for our Wednesday webinars, we've got on Wednesday, November 25th, we won't be on because it's Thanksgiving week. And such as it is, hopefully we're all enjoying the time and being grateful to have what we have at that point. On Wednesday, December 2nd, we will have another week with the Case Attorney Coalition, much like today. We will also have that on December 16th, and then December 30th, New Year's Eve, we will not be online that week.
It's New Year's Eve week, Eve, Mike. Much as we might like 2020 to have one less day, unfortunately, it's keeping going all the way to the 31st of December.
You know what? I'm feeling like this is a Monday. I apologize that I'm not 100% sharp today. Whoops. So Case Force disclaimer, these office hours are intended to be a resource for small businesses with fewer than 25 employees and nonprofits to learn information about various resources and legal issues relevant to the COVID-19 pandemic. They are not intended to offer legal advice, and the leaders of the office hours are not able to represent office hour participants as their attorneys. This session is intended to address issues related to the pandemic, and panelists aren't able to comment on general non-pandemic related issues. And with that, I'd like to welcome Alfredo Silva, that is going to be helping us today with any legal questions you may have. And we'll also be, we have Sunita, Kyle, and myself to address any of the financial issues that you may be dealing with. So today's attorney is, again, Alfredo Silva. He's a partner at Morrison & Forster. We also have the online statewide small business resource guide link here, which we will also put into the chat.
Hi, thanks for the intro. So yeah, again, if you've got any legal questions, let me know and I'd be happy to answer. I think most of the questions so far in the chat are on PPP, and I think that some of them haven't been answered because the people that have been answering or would be able to answer them have been talking. And so, you know, while I answer some legal questions, they might have a chance to go through the chat function and answer some of those PPP related and EIDL related questions. Yeah, I would say, you know, I'll try to answer whatever I can, but to the extent that anyone actually, you know, needs counsel specifically to help on an individual issue that can't just be answered on this call, a great resource that we promote is the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Legal Services for Entrepreneurs Clinic, that's LSC. And if you just Google LSE space LCCR, then you will end up getting their website, and they do end up providing resources and attorneys available for folks that need the help. The other resource that you can use is startsmallthinkbig.org. They also provide legal services for small businesses. So happy to answer any questions as they come in.
Thank you so much, Alfredo. I do have a question here from Lisa, and it says, first, do we still have to deduct EIDL? Then if you subtract the EIDL from your PPP, then the amount owed switches to 1%. So Lisa, this is a question that comes up quite a bit. Now, your EIDL advance is the only thing that is offset against your PPP. So this is the piece that is basically a grant. It's money that came to you that is not a loan. The EIDL loan does not offset your PPP. So the question would become, when did you receive your advance? If you received your advance prior to your PPP, you would have put the amount you received on the PPP application, at which point the lender, when they approved you for a particular amount of funding, would have deducted the amount that I have a real life example. I had a client that received $9,000 in PPP advance funds. When they applied for PPP, they were approved for $39,000. The bank offset that by the $9,000 they already received, and they only received funding from the bank for $30,000. Therefore, at the end, that full $30,000, assuming that they spent it according to the guidelines, should be able to be forgiven. Now, if you received your PP or your EIDL advance after receiving your PPP loan, then there would be the chance that, yes, the amount equal to that advance would then convert to a loan, and that loan would be at the 1%, and it would be at whatever note you have with the bank. If you received that loan prior to the Flexibility Act being signed, you probably were on a 2-year. There is an option for a 5. My recommendation then would be to contact the bank and find out if you're able to make that adjustment. But yes, then that advance would be the amount that would be deducted from your PPP, not the loan itself. I hope that helps. If you have further questions to that, please feel free to give us a call at 833-ASK-SBDC. Let's see. And let's see it. I'm hoping someone has an answer here, and I'll actually, maybe David can answer this from SBA. This is with regard to the employee retention credit. 2 questions. Is it too late to apply from Q2? I'm assuming this is related to loan. I could be wrong. And number 2, client doesn't qualify for credit for Q3, but will for Q4. Can they apply for that as well? Or does it need to be for consecutive quarters?
Well, Mike, that one, that one I'm not quite sure if I could handle that. That would be something we'd probably have to look into and probably talk to that person a little bit more in depth. Yeah, so we'd have to get back to that person on that one for an answer.
Excellent. So Lori, if you wouldn't mind, call 833-ASK-SBDC. If you're not already associated with SBDC, if you are, call your advisor, and basically we'll go through your situation with you, and then we will field whatever information could be helpful on that. If you're not already with SBDC, then that phone number, they'll do an intake for you and they'll assign you to one of our advisors that will be able to help you further.
I saw a question, if I can jump in, because I accidentally hit the answer live button.
Okay.
From Steve's son about closing out a lease in San Francisco.
Okay.
And the question was, if a lease that you want to terminate early because you can't really use the property due to COVID, and can you get out of the lease without penalty? This has been coming up for many people, and is sort of the flip side of the people that want to be able to avoid eviction. The answer is it depends on what your lease agreement says. So you'll probably have to have an attorney help you review that. But the key will be a clause called the force majeure clause. It's the word force majeure is spelled in a weird French way. But it will describe what the conditions are for when you are allowed to break the lease. And it will depend on the wording of that clause, whether COVID-19 is the grounds for getting out of the lease, including whether it covers epidemics or pandemics as a rationale for breaking the lease or not. I think that you'll also have to figure out what the clause says in terms of whether it allows you to break the lease entirely or just to defer payments during the period in which you're unable to use the business. And they can be worded differently depending on the situation. So you'll probably want to reach out to a lawyer. Again, I would recommend LSC, the Legal Services for Entrepreneurs, or Start Small, Think Big, to try to find a lawyer that can help you review that clause specifically. And once you understand what the parameters of the force majeure clause are, you can use that to negotiate the lease with the landlord and get to a good outcome there. I'm not aware of any government-assisted program to help terminate the lease, though, other than the lawyers that are available pro bono.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And let me get back here to questions. And so I have Mary here is asking, can you tell me again the details? Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Where did it go here? Here was Debbie. Is there a way to get information on our EIDL loan? We are wanting to see the balance since funding. How can we make payments? This may come up for other people as well. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat. There is an email address at SBA for servicing. And let me go ahead and get that into chat here.
And I'll go ahead and let everybody know what it is. It's EL-PASO, PASO-DLSC at SBA.gov. Or you can call them at 800-487-6019.
And I'll put those in the chat.
Thank you, Alan.
So I just got that into the chat. Okay, and so Evan, my first attempt at the EIDL application failed due to a mistake on the app. My second attempt at recon seems to have died. My third attempt in September also seems to have died. Should I start over and apply for a new EIDL? David, Mr. Castaneda, is there a way that they could actually get some help with this, since it seems that they've tried to get to reconsideration twice and haven't gotten responses?
Yeah, I think currently the way we're advising people, they do have to continue to work at those emails that you have given them, and or the phone number for the disaster. Because unfortunately at the district office, we don't have a way to get into the system and look anything up or talk with people to like a shortcut. We were not able to do that. So they do have to use the emails that they're given, you know, to get information and continue to follow up. But I think, you know, being vigilant and continue to follow up is the key. You just got to keep working with them, because there is still a lot of processing that they're working on, and they, you know, have to get back to people. And they will eventually. It's just, you know, the lot that they're processing.
Thank you so much, David. And I have Mary here, who says, can you tell me again the details on the webinar hosted by the Women's Business Center? Is there anybody who can put that info into the chat?
Yeah, I did put that in the chat. So I put the link to the registration for the Women's Business Center. It's a case study, and they're going to have business owners talk about their experience going through the process. So I did put that in the chat. The link for the registration for that's coming up on November 20th.
Thank you. And I have, so Alfredo, I have Mary here has a legal question specifically for you. Can a cafe have a policy of splitting tips to the entire staff? If not, why not? All staff is part of the direct service to the patron.
Yeah, I have no idea. Unfortunately, I'm not an employment lawyer, and so I don't know the rules around that. That's one of the questions that you might be able to go to another resource for, or you know, maybe if other people have a similar question, it might be answered at a future event. But I don't know the answer to that one.
No problem at all. So Mary, what I would suggest is call 833-ASK-SBDC. We do have at least one advisor who specializes in HR related matters, and they could connect you with her. Okay. Let's see, that one's done. Okay, and so David, I'll put this one to you. Lori has a client who received a notice through reconsideration yesterday that their loan has funded. How long before funds will be in their bank account?
Ooh, so I'm assuming that's the EIDL. And I think even from everything I've heard, it seems like it just appears. I don't even know the timeline on how long it is from once it's approved to it just showing up in your account. So again, Sunita, do you have any idea on that? You know, the timeline when it from the time they're approved to when it might show up in their into their bank account? Because I'm not quite sure on that timeline.
Sure, it could be a few additional weeks. It really just depends on the SBA disaster. Unfortunately, since there's so many people doing reconsiderations and new loans still, the timelines have all kind of gone out the window, where before it was possibly 1 to 2 weeks or 4 weeks. I would check on a weekly basis to make sure, because it's just going to get deposited, possibly just like the EIDL advance did. It just drops into your account. So I would have them check on a daily basis the wiring information and check to see that it's gone into their account or not. that's what I would do. But unfortunately, we don't have a timeline like specifically 1 week or 10 business days. We just haven't heard yet because it's everything's been a little bit different for everybody.
Okay, I have a legal question here from Steve, and it says, when we signed the lease, no one foresaw COVID-19 is coming. We do not have any escape clause. You mentioned you have an attorney to help review the lease document. Can you give the office phone number and how much do they charge? We are a minority owned. Oh, where did it go? It just moved.
All right, it just disappeared because we didn't realize answering it was going to go away. But this is a follow-up to the question that I'd already answered, and so I've just emailed, Steve the answers now in the answers bucket.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, there was a question on there that I'm not sure that was answered or addressed yet. And that was somebody asked if there are any grants out there. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I do, keep a lookout on all our other SBDC service centers in Northern California. And I have to say, working with SBA 22 or so years, I actually have never seen this many legitimate grants out there for existing businesses that are affected by the COVID. So what I suggest for individuals that might be looking for those, number one, connect with your local SBDC center and apply to their e-newsletter, because a lot of times they talk about how you can connect with those local grants. The other thing is connect again with your local city or county, because I have seen not only the initial offerings for grants for small businesses, but sometimes all of the grant funds are not used and they go out again to let people know that there are still funds available. So basically though, you do have to look for it within the county your business resides in. Okay, so you can't, it's not really, I don't see it like for all of California. It has to be within the county or city that your business resides in. So local county, local city, local SBDC office. So connect with their e-newsletters, and a lot of times you'll find information on those grants.
Thank you. I see a question here. It says, is an employer able to require a 14-day quarantine if an employee chooses to leave the state during the holiday season before returning to work? If yes, as an employer, need to pay them through the emergency paid sick leave. So this would be, again, another HR question, and I'm sure this is going to come up with a lot of people, particularly with the travel advisory that was just announced. And what I would recommend, Rebecca, is to call 833-ASK-SBDC, and again, tell them that you need to speak with one of our HR advisors that are with SBDC that maybe can get you some answers to that question.
I would say that just, based on my own experience and some research, that you can, I think, require them not to come into to work, I'm guessing, but you can't force them to quarantine. Like, you can't force them to stay in their own house and not go out. But you can say that they can't come in and work, but you can't force them not to, go to the park or go to, or do whatever they want. And I'm not sure that the Emergency Family Medical Leave Act will available unless they themselves have been exposed, or a family member has been exposed, or they're subject to a specific order requiring them to quarantine. But again, I think that you should follow Mike's advice and talk to someone at SBDC to get more specific information around that.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have Linda asks why the 3.75% added to the principal amount. And if you could.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, that disappeared. Okay.
Yeah, that was something that she was asking about, how to calculate the payment for the EIDL. So the closest way that I kind of do it is I'll take the EIDL amount and I'll add 3.75%, because that covers the interest that was charged during that first year. And then I'll type in a loan for that amount at 29 years at 3.75%. And that kind of gives an estimation of what the payment would be. But I believe you should get that information when the SBA hands you a contract for EIDL. They should say, this is what you've been approved for. This is what your payments would look like. That's been the case. So
You should get an amortization schedule with your loan docs.
yeah.
And if for some reason you've deleted that email or anything, that servicing email address that we've put into the chat should be able to get you that information as well. Okay, let's see. We've got one here that says, for hospitality businesses that have been unable to resume any type of operations or generate revenue, it is most important to us to use funds to be able to be in business when we can have customers. To that end, for PPP loans less than $50,000, what are the options for forgiveness through attestation to inability to bring back employees and restart during covered period, but still get forgiveness under the 3508S form? Also, Mike Balsted gave an answer regarding EIDL advance that doesn't make sense in relation to 3508S form, as well as PPP instructions, which only advise to report amounts of EIDL received prior to 4/3 of 2020. So with regard to attestation, here's what I would say, Benjamin. Call us. You're very welcome to calling 833-ASK-SBDC. Ask to be connected to me. I'd be glad to go through your specific case with you. But again, the reason for the PPP advance being offset is because that's also money that you don't have to pay back. So it's not being able to double dip. So that's the reason I gave that answer. And that's why the PPP application has a field in the upper left-hand corner that asks for that advance funds that you received. But again, please call 833-ASK-SBDC. Glad to walk through your case with you.
There's a poll that I think we want to run. Shall I open that poll up now, Sunita?
Yes, please. That would be great.
So we want to get some input from you guys about how you think how useful these are to you. So please take a minute to answer those three questions. Are they still providing you with relevant information? And if we're missing something, please put that into the chat. What it is we're missing. Do you want us to continue with them? And also, we want to make sure we know who folks are. So, are you one of us? So, do you work with or for the SBDC as an advisor or an affiliate? Are you one of our clients? You're not a client, but you come to these a lot, or are you not a client, but and this is maybe your first time, or you're a very, very occasional attendee at these sessions? So please take some time to fill that in. In the meantime, we're going to take a couple more of the questions. Somebody's going to take some more questions.
Yeah, we have some questions that are quite long. And I think the one from Evelyn, that's a great question. She used the money now to pay yourself. We really need to look at your tax returns to see how you've paid yourself in the past. Have you paid yourself in the past? What type of business do you have? Are you an S Corp? Are you Schedule C, which I doubt, but please get in contact with either us, the Finance Center, and you can reach also your local center at 833-ASK-SBDC, because we need more information from you, and we need to look at it to be able to answer this question correctly. I don't want to give you a quick answer because this looks very detailed, and we're going to need more information from you. So Evelyn, please give us a call at 833-ASK-SBDC so we can walk you through this.
One of the questions is about the CARES Act rental assistance and how people can get access to that as it's not entirely being used. I'm not sure if anyone on the call is an expert in this or has had experience in this, but from what I can tell, some of that money is being administered by a large number of different local agencies. And so I don't know if there's a central depository, but one of the resources that we have is the a resource guide for the case task force, and it's grouped by county and by city, and so it may be helpful to look under that guide for the specific county that you're in and see what programs are available and what resources are available for that county, because some of the folks there may be able to provide or advise on rental assistance. For example, I know that in the East Bay, Centro Legal de la Raza is actually one of the administrators of the rental assistance under the CARES Act, and you could apply through them. And so again, a lot of this may be county-based and based off of your local, of what's going on locally to where you are. I don't know if anyone else has other thoughts on that.
I do not. And then Sandra did put that information in the chat for us. So David, if you want to look in the chat right now to get that resource guide, then you'll have it for each county, which will be amazing, which we will keep as well. So we'll have that information for people. But it is difficult since we are a regional webinar and we are in different regions to have that information. So a great resource also would be to contact your local SBDC office, and they can still be reached at the 833 ASKSBDC. But Sandra, thank you so much for that resource guide.
Local centers really know what's going on locally with their counties.
And I do see another really good question from you here. So yeah, I really do encourage you to give us a call. This question had to do with having an increase to your loan due to economic loss. And yeah, that is possible. And it is through the PDS Recons email that it looks like you've already submitted to. And when you get in touch with us, let's take a look at what the reason for the denial was that you received and see what we can do with that.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to take the next one from Linda that says, I received $34,000 EIDL in May, and I've had it sitting in an account since I haven't been able to open my business back up. This would mean interest is accruing at $160 a month. If so, I owe nearly $2,000 at the end of the year. Is that right? No, that's not right. So if the EIDL loan was $34,000, you are going to multiply that by 0.0375. If anybody else is following along and I mess up, feel free to correct me. So for that first year, you're going to take your balance and you're going to multiply it by 3.75%. I'm doing this live here. Okay, so 34.
That's a total of $1,275 for a full year of interest.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little less than what you got there. But then again, remember that amount is going to be amortized over the next 29 years. So it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting scenario. But I think your numbers are a little high right there.
Yeah.
And Linda, if you think that you're not going to be able to open up your business, then we should talk as well. I know previously SBA stated that if you are not able to reopen that business, then you would have to give the money back. And the reason is because you can't use those funds to open up a new business if the previous business had unfortunately failed. So why don't you reach out to us, 833 ASKSBDC, so that way we can help you walk you through this, because that, and I'm very sorry that you have not been able to open your establishment yet.
Okay.
Can you use the funds for lost income? You could possibly, but let's see. So if the business never opened up, then we really need, it's really to keep your business going. That's what you were supposed to use those funds for. And if one of those one of the slots is you can pay yourself with that money, but not pay yourself with all the money. So if the business has not been able to get opened up, Linda, give us a call so that way we can help you, get through this information, because everyone's a little bit different.
I'm going to close off the poll now. We've had 3/4 of the people who are here have voted, so thank you so much. And I'll share that information, but I'll quickly share it with everybody so you can see the answers. But clearly, everybody thinks it's a good idea. With 98% of you think we're relevant and worth keeping. One person thinks we can stop. Please let us know what we're missing. That person, if it is the same person. And good to see that about just under half of you are clients, and those who aren't clients but come here often. What's stopping you becoming a client? You know how good our folks can be in helping you. So feel free to reach out to them, and we'll see that go. All right, that's I'm going to stop sharing those results, and I think it's 11:30, so it's time for us to depart. There's no more questions sitting in Q&A, so thank you very much to Alfredo and David and Sandra and all the folks from our own team, from our finance center. So Mike and Carl and Sunita and Bree for being there as my backup in case my machine went down. How can I access the info from this webinar and chat after it's over, comes a question. Well, if you go to ASKSBDC.com, we take these classes and push them out so that they're available for B to watch recorded versions of them in there. All righty.
On the 2nd. We'll see you on the 2nd. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye all.
Bye-bye.